Good evening. Again, welcome back. Always hard to know. I don't have a cameraman going like you're on in 3, 2, whatever. Just the software goes live, so hopefully I'm live, I guess. Looks like I'm live. Thank you for joining me for exploring what is probably my favorite new piece of technology, the FPGA Mister. All enjoyed drinking cheapest possible red wine. So the Mister is an interesting old device. It's basically based on a development board from Intel. And what they figured out is that there's a way to hardware reproduce, if you will, different consoles, which is what this is. That's an open source project called the Mr. FPGA project, where people actually, really talented developers, managed to reproduce consoles in a console or in a chip format. So there are consoles that come on from a company called Analog, for example, the Mega SG and the Super NT, I think. Those are FPGA based. And it's basically a collection of, or a single processing chip that can then mimic actual integrated circuitry. So normal circuitry or a normal integrated circuit is printed from the factory and that's it. So the FPGA allows you to reprogram it. Really smart people have figured this out. And it basically allows you to hardware emulate. It's still emulation technically. You're emulating hardware, not software. You can emulate the actual consoles, or in this case, the Amiga. So now we basically have what amounts to the most powerful Amiga that could possibly be made. And you can configure this just by opening the software here. And this is actually running on an ARM processor that's baked into the chip that has the FPGA stuff on it. You can set up your hard disks that's on the Amiga. You can set up what speed you should have. This is 68020 processors or 20 megahertz. The AGA chipset, which is the advanced graphics array, I think. Definitely the more advanced Amiga, or the last video chipset on it. So, all in all, it produces or gives you a very powerful Amiga. They use the word cycle accurate a lot, and what they're meaning then is that they wanted to be cycle accurate for each cycle of the actual CPU. If they've achieved that or not, it's hard to say. That's what they're going for. That's what they're trying to achieve, but it's of course very hard to do that. But the cool thing is that now, instead of having an Amiga, we be able to play like everything. So in this case here, someone actually made, and I can show this. This is the actual Workbench software. This is the not Workbench software, the program manager, if you will, for the Amiga. And this is where all the software will be, or this is where you do your multitasking, which is why I was so ahead of its time. At the time, you have a Workbench. You could open documents and draw. Like if we open Deluxe Paint here, which is a very, very popular, you have to decide how large the field should be. This is a very popular drawing software back in the day, and there wasn't much that was around that was equivalent. I don't know when Deluxe Paint itself came out, but the Amiga 500 was introduced, I think, in 1985. So the amount of color and everything you could do was just, mind-boggling at this point. See if I can actually exit out of this here now. Or of course not here. There we go. Don't save. And you had a lot of things you could do. I mean, most people that want Amiga, I think, at least where I grew up, was using it for gaming, which we'll get to as well. But we basically now have a just phenomenal Amiga. It will do everything we need to. So in this case here, I can just reset it to go back to the menu. Someone was kind enough. That's the cool thing with this community. Someone was kind enough to actually make these hardware images that have just literally all the games on them. For the Amiga, most of the time you're dealing with floppies. Most of the games were on floppies, but then later a software called WHD load, which is just allowing you to load the games from hard drive, but they have to be custom made to be able to do that. You can't just take a floppy and install it on a hard drive. So someone had to go through and basically convert all these games into WHD load. What that allows us to do now is just to look and see, okay, here's someone curated a top 100 list, Populous 2, a very popular game, with the image and everything. This GUI that you're seeing here was not around at the time, or I certainly remember seeing it. But this lets me just launch any game I want. Here, can we just launch the cannon fodder by just pushing enter, and it launches the game, and that's it. You don't have to hunt around for a floppy, swap ADF images, which was normally being used. And since we're running with what is essentially cycle accurate Amiga, the software just runs. That's it. And we're running Amiga games. So that's why the FPGA solution is so awesome, because that it's so close to the actual hardware, compatibility problems are kept to a minimum compared to software emulation, which is still really good. RetroPie can do this stuff, but it's software emulating it, so you're going to have some compatibility problems, because you're basically trying to fake the software to think it's running on actual hardware. In this case, the software thinks it's running on hardware. If the FPGA core, as they call them, there's a core for Genesis, there's a core for Super Nintendo, as long as that's programmed well, the software is none the wiser. It literally thinks it's running on the actual hardware, which is what makes it so cool. And having the games installed like this in a menu makes it just a snap to mess around with this. And what's really cool with the Mr. project here now is that, so you're watching a capture, that's through HDMI, which gives you a direct, quote-unquote lagless connection, but I'm playing on a CRT. It has a hat that goes on it that actually allows you to have pure RGB output, which in this case here, now it's going to a CRT monitor, but you can do both at the same time, so it's basically made for streaming in that sense. Now, for the game at hand, this is cannon fodder. It's not like I won't say anti-war, but it certainly makes fun of the Vietnam era. And your little soldiers have to survive, and they get better and better the longer they go. I'll show you here now. We'll go into a mission. Because this is running on a very fast Amiga, it runs just fantastic. Much better than it probably would have on an actual Amiga 500 that I was experienced with. So, and yes, if you're looking at the little weird chat overlay there, I am messing around with actually getting the chat into the stream, so bear with me how horrible it looks for now, but this game is played almost exclusively with the mouse, and the mouse translates directly. I'm using the mouse, just a regular USB PC mouse, and it translates to the Amiga, so to kill all enemies in this. There we go, mission complete. Super simple, and gets harder really fast, but this is an iconic game. So, that menu, like, what that does, the menu you saw there, is actually, the menu is a software on top of the Amiga. So what that's doing, all it's doing is just providing a shortcut to launch and WHD load games. So that's just part of the Amiga software. So we're already in the core, we haven't left the core at all yet. But bringing this menu up here is the actual core menu for the Mr. So I can press F10 now to go out to that menu, and that's just quitting the software, not the core. So the core's still running, it doesn't reset the... This is the equivalent of just swapping floppies on the Amiga, basically. Or running the next software. You're still running the core, so we haven't left the Amiga or anything yet. So resetting the emulation would be reloading the core, resetting it to scratch, or loading another core. That resets the emulation from scratch. As long as you're in the core, it doesn't really stop. The FPGA has been reconfigured to run as that core until you reset the core completely. So normally, I would on Super Nintendo, I can show that in a bit or two, I would switch game, and then it would kick around. But the Amiga, since it's a computer, is still running the Workbench software underneath. Let's see, now it gets a little harder, you gotta kill more, but the cool thing with this, I'm playing on a CRT now, I mean, it plays flawlessly. And I played with software emulation, but the fact that I have the HDMI out to do the capture, which looks really nice, I know I complained on streams in the past, plus then being able to play it on original analog video is just, it's just so great. And the fact that they keep adding stuff. So this is just the Amiga then. And the Amiga was really a popular home computer in Europe, right? So when the original project for this was the MIST project, which is where Mr. comes from. Oh. There we go. I want my guys to survive. They get higher ranks. That was almost exclusively for the Amiga and the Atari ST, which is where the ST comes from in Mr. or MIST. I think it was the Amiga MIST, or Amiga ST, basically, if you cram it together like that. So the Mr. project developed from that with the Cyclone chip that's on this FPGA, or the FPGA chip on here, is more powerful. And I think they differentiated by how many logic circuits it has. So if you think about an integrated circuitry, it has X number of things or traces built into it already. well, the FPGA has a number of logic gates that it can use, and that limits how large the chip it can emulate, if you will. Some people get really upset about calling this emulation, and I mean, you can slice and dice and say it's more harder replication, I guess, but it's still emulation. In the strictest sense of it, you're still duplicating the hardware, or emulating it. I mean, I think it's still fair to say emulation, but just people get really like, it's almost feel like a bit of an elitist thing coming around the FPGA and Mister, just the fact that it is more accurate, and it seems like this is the way forward as these consoles die. Neo Geo is a fantastic example, because Neo Geo, as I understand it, and I'm not an expert by any means on this one, but has nothing but custom chips, which is why it's so expensive. You have to have the exact hardware. You can't reproduce them very easily. You can't just take off-the-shelf Commodore for an Amiga. They loved using off-the-shelf chips. So there's definitely custom ones, but there's a lot of ones that are off-the-shelf, so they can be reproduced. With the Neo Geo, it's like all of it custom chips. So with the FPGA solution, they can duplicate those chips then without any real cost. It's, you know, it doesn't cost much, because this little board here now is, you know, sure, it's not as cheap as a Pi. It's like 150 bucks plus accessories then. But considering what it can do, because this is the Amiga 500 now, I'm running an Amiga 1200 basically, or newer, with a 20 megahertz chip, which was definitely faster than most Amigas back in the day. The 500, I think, is like 7, or even slower, so this runs just great. Even games that would normally bog down. I don't think I can shoot the birds. Nope. Lame. So that's just one part, right? So if you literally just want to get into this for the Amiga purpose, which it runs flawlessly, you're already up there, because even an accelerator for an Amiga 500 is $200+. So then if you want to have additional computers, like Atari ST, which this does as well, it just keeps adding on, and they keep having more and more cores, and they've basically covered, like... See if I can get this here now. Can I not shoot the barrels? There we go. Really cool art style in this game. There we go. As they keep adding more and more stuff, it just keeps getting better and better and better. So at that point, especially for me, what I use this stuff for, it's a no-brainer. And I did end up packing away my Amiga 500 for now, but I was sitting here just to mess with this more focused. So again, I can show the board as well. Sorry for the shaky camera now. Cable's all tangled up. So this is the Mister here. And you can see, so the base board is what's called a DE10 Nano, which is the bottom part. That's what you see down here. And on top here is the I/O board, which is the input-output board. This board is the standard board that Intel produces, and it's meant for engineering students, really. The FPGA chip is under here, and you can't really see it right now. The I/O board is made by the community, and I bought it from a guy that basically just, you know, solders together himself. And that lets you use the I/O pins on the board to get that RGB video out, which is what I'm using. It's running an RGB video to my... Of course, you're going to see flickering here, sorry about that, but that's running on my CRT then. Plus then being able to capture it without any fuss. It's really amazing. You do have to have a RAM expansion board on here, which is 32 meg. Doesn't sound like much, but the built-in memory on this was not designed to be a gaming console, right? It never was. I can put the camera up again without everyone barf. It was never meant to be a game console, right? So it doesn't have a lot of memory on it. So the memory that's on there apparently isn't very fast, so that's why you need the SRAM module. And they go up to 128 right now, which is what you need for full compatibility for all the Neo Geo cores. I am running 32 meg, because I'm not really messing with the high stuff yet. So let's check out another game. So in this case here, now I'm still in the Amiga, I'm not leaving the Amiga. I am pressing F10, which quits WHD load game, and then it just loads up the menu that was running on here. It's that simple. And here you still have access to like every Amiga game ever made, basically. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be ones that aren't included, but there's like 1,000 games on here, and they all work just as easily. Flashback is a classic. Speedball 2. A lot of these actually have cheat engines built in too, but yeah, it's yeah, for the looking so nice, that's the really cool part, is that you don't have to worry about the quality, because I'm not doing an analog conversion in this case. It's digital to digital, and I'm doing analog to play it, but having the digital is just phenomenal. It just works so well. I gotta check a Desert Strike. It's one of my favorites on. Now, a lot of these games were hacked, right? Or cracked, I should say, in the Amiga days. They were cracked to remove copy protection, so they added trainers on them, which allow you to, you know, unlimited lives, stuff like that. And I don't think there's a cheat engine for the Amiga. Like for Super Nintendo and Genesis, they have a cheat engine, which is basically like a Game Genie built in. So you can just basically enable cheats like crazy. My kids loved it because they become invulnerable and whatnot. And he enabled so many cheats that he soft-locked the game. And this supports just about anything with USB, right? So I'm using just a retro 8-bit DO gamepad, one of the SNES ones. That works pretty well. But of course you can plug in a joystick or anything USB and it handles it just fine. It's a camera. This is the one that came with the C64 Mini. I haven't tried it yet, but the Amiga will just play with a joystick, so you can use this. And one of the cool things is the Amiga almost always used up for jumping, because it only had one button. The Amiga had one button on the controller, at least most of them did. So being able to rebind a single key to a button means that I can have a jump and then on an extra button, so. And it shows me what the binding there. You can't see it because I scaled it to fit here, so. Let me know if it's too loud. I think that's a little loud there. The Amiga has a great sound on it. It's fantastic. It has a very unique sound to it in general. One thing too that you can actually do, you can of course, you know, mix it up a little bit. So in this case, I'm using PAL because it has support for more games. Amiga was primarily in Europe, right? You can do stereo mix. Normally, the Amiga had 4 channels, 2 per stereo, if you will. So on the left channel you had 2 sound channels, and on the right you had 2. So if you, like, you know, balance the audio to one side, you only hear a little bit of the music. In this case here, it allows you, through then the emulation, mix it together so it sounds better. But it just looks great. It's super easy to play. Silence. I'm definitely not Saddam here. It's just a phenomenal solution. They keep building on it and adding on it, and I'm just having a great time messing with it, because it does really, for better or worse, I mean, replace some of this hardware that's dying, at least from a day-to-day usability. Like, if I really want the experience, yep, I'll whip out the Amiga, I'll put it in the floppy, and it's a really cool thing. But if I want to get an Amiga up to this level that this is, it would cost me hundreds and hundreds of dollars, because I have to buy accelerators and hard drives and stuff like that, and plus it's running on old hardware. So I don't think this can 100% replace through hardware. There's something special about, you know, booting up an old machine, messing with it. But from a day-to-day usability perspective, this is just fantastic. This looks a lot better than on the SNES, but how do I actually start the game? Sound. Sure, he looks like a cool guy. Start campaign. And again, this runs a lot faster than an actual Amiga would, right? Let me rephrase that. It does not run faster than Amiga, because you can put this processor in some of the Amigas, the 68020. It's just a Motorola 20 MHz processor, and it's a very popular upgrade when you add an expansion card to the Amiga, the real hardware. And let me know if the sound is okay or not. It's a little hard to judge. It keeps changing volume if you can hear me still, or if it's too loud in the game. But that processor is used a lot for accelerator cards, open source or not, but again, they're usually several $100s. Sure. There we go. Loading. We'll see. The Amiga wasn't always friendly when it came to aspect ratios and how it looks on screen, but there you go, we're flying a helicopter. I played this mostly on SNES, for sure. I haven't really played it on Amiga at all, so. But weapons arm. Desert Strike is a, as you can see, isometric helicopter, fly around, do missions, shoot stuff. That looks a lot cleaner than on the SNES. And you can destroy just about everything, I think. Certainly a little hard to control. They're probably expecting joystick here. And it's still, I mean, it's not going to run like everything is super fast, because not all games benefit from the faster CPU speed. That's the thing, too. What they're trying to do is try and stay accurate to actual hardware, so you're not going to get, like, oh, 100 megahertz processor on a Amiga, right? Whoops, probably should have saved him. It just wouldn't run well, or just too fast, or whatever. So it's certainly definitely going to see slowdowns and stuff. There, you can save this guy here. Let's see. Come on. Come on. There we go. I can't save you any more than that. But, you know, it just gives you access to, like, here's just about every Amiga game you could possibly want, at least from a basic playability perspective. Yes, it is not the true experience of booting an Amiga, waiting for it and everything, but it's just so darn easy to use. Oh. Danger zone. Sorry. I gotta rewatch Top Gun, it's been a while. I'm glad those tents were filled with C4, they're pretty explodey. In this game, you also have to pick up fuel and ammo, because you run out. I think there's, like, objectives and stuff, but... it's also a little weird to get used to the controls. Whoops, Hellfire missile. Also overkill for that guy. Since the Amiga, at least the base Amiga, had one button, and I think there was definitely, you know, multi-buttons. But then if you are using the Amiga CD32 gamepad, that did have 4 buttons, I believe, so... yeah, that's a bunker, I think, that opens up later. Low armor, so I'm about to die here. Find some armor, but... yeah, the Amiga is, if you haven't messed with it a lot, the closest thing I can approximate it to is like a Genesis or SNES computer. It was a 16-bit computer, and had a really advanced video chip and sound chip for its day. I mean, this came out mid-80s, right? And no one had really seen this kind of level of multimedia capabilities, and it was really, really good. So it is really, you know... the NES came out in the US, I think, 85, right? So that's around the era that this was launched in Europe. And I mean, yeah, it's... now, I know that NES was more like... it wasn't like, this is cutting edge, right? It was supposed to be a, everyone can get one kind of thing. Whoops, daisy. I love this game. I am awful at it, so we're not going to stick around too much, but... point being is, even for that era, then, it was just really, really impressive. And it has a huge library of games, too. Some that are cross-platformed, you can play in other places, too. But certainly, if you like 16-bit era games, the Amiga is fantastic to explore. In this case here, it's explorable with almost zero effort, right? So, and the community keeps making updates all the time to these things too. For an example, they have emulation or a core for the 486 processor up to 90 megahertz now. And recently they figured out a way to allow caching, which increases speed dramatically on it. And if you want to play, like, you know, anything from the early 486 era, then yeah, they can do that too. So not only do you have, like, every console ever known on this thing, well, not ever known, older consoles and older computers. So just to give you an example here, okay, start menu, start button does work. If we go into the core menu, we can actually see how many things are on here. So there's a script that actually pulls down these cores automatically. And you have a selection of arcade cores. Yeah, I'm not sure if Defender of the Crown originally came out on the C64 or if it was the Amiga, so... I'm gonna... try and resize this window here so you can actually see what you're saying. I'm just messing with the chat still. It's all brand new for me. There we go. So yeah, Defender of the Crown is definitely on. We can try that out. And and I certainly remember it being like kind of a flagship title on the Amiga. It certainly looks a lot better than the NES version, not gonna lie there. But between all the computer cores that are on here, because I mean there's so many. Apple II, a lot of these I haven't configured yet, so I'm not gonna say how they're gonna launch. But the Atari ST, for example, I got that working. Mini-Mig is the one for Amiga. MSX is another kind of a European special. TR-80, TRS-80, Spectrum, things like that. But then also for the consoles, there's a ton now too. Neo Geo is probably the most powerful one that's running on it now, which is pretty amazing. Sega CD was added, TurboGrafx 16 CD, just so many things that it can do. So let's check out Defender of the Crown. Let's see if we can find it. I wonder if it's on here. We'll go to the, I think, all games. All games. D. Defender of the Crown. It's like, and then someone took the time to take these screenshots, put them in this menu, and again, this is not Mr. related. You could run this on a true Amiga as well. So someone actually, I found a YouTube video, and I don't know if it was the person who made that video that made this menu or not. If it is, so certainly impressive. He may have just repackaged it for the purpose of the video, but now we just run that. But again, this is running all the WHD load software, which is basically the installable version of the games for Amiga. I haven't played this in years. No promises if I even know how to play it. The cast. In the Year of our Lord 1149, blah 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 blah. Got it. Some of these cores support like turbo speeds, basically. Choose a character. Cedric of Rotherwood, Wilfred of Ivanhoe, Geoffrey Longsword, and Wulfric the Wild. I'll go with Cedric of Rotherwood. I like his name. Cedric. A lot of time it's emulating as well the loading speeds, and now that's from hard drive. In this case, if it was actually doing it from floppy, it would be much slower. So, yep, there's a lot of people talking. So yeah, I mean, this is certainly closer to SNES in graphical quality. It came out before the SNES, obviously, but oh boy, I can't remember how to play this game at all. Your orders. Read map. Is this me? No, am I down here? Oh, that's where I am, right? Yep. Swordplate, weak. Your income is 2, your treasure is 7. So, maybe we should build an army. 7 gold. That is not much of an army, but we'll start. There we go. We'll go raiding. Select a castle to raid. Forget that. Let's see conquest. Build the campaign army, send forth the campaign army. Never mind. Alright, fine, we'll go raiding. Yeah, the graphics are really impressive for the time, so... But yeah, I remember on the NES, vague memories of playing it, but then my friend across the street had an Amiga when I was growing up. Aha, take that. I don't think it's bound to the... You're captured. What? You must pay 1 of your 3 gold. This is an outrage. Well, that didn't work out so well. Why do I keep getting into these games where I have no idea how to... So I don't even know how to move. Yeah, it looks really good. But yeah, it's how the heck do I actually take another territory? Not owned. So do I have to build a campaign army? Okay, there we go. There. Send forth the campaign army territory. Got it. So there we go. Haha. Oh shoot. Oh, I'm screwed. I should have done that first. Not doing so hot there. So I want to hold a tournament. To a tournament we go. Whoa! And sometimes with the faster processor, it almost runs a little too fast. Usually it's fine, but with this 20 megahertz processor, some of the stuff kind of flies by. But yeah, I did call a tournament. And now the jousting. Unfortunately, I think the guy I took was like poor jousting. Let's do Edmund the Grim. Let's do Fame because I don't wanna put any. I can't promise anything because I'm not sure on the controls even on this. I remember that you have to like aim as your. Yeah, that does look really, really good. That's why I'm excited to explore the Amiga library because. Aha! Take that, dude. Thus ends your day in the lists of Ashby. You were not the champion, but your deeds will be remembered. Wow. Okay. Your campaign army is being attacked. Oh no. Stand. Oh my goodness, yes. Wilder. Oh. I had 5 guys and he had 50. No. I will ignore her cries because I have literally no soldiers. I have 2 gold. And I don't have an army, so not doing so hot here. Buy some more soldiers. Should we hold a tournament? I don't have enough treasury. I can do nothing. Can I skip my turn? Not doing so hot. Oh. Yeah, we'll try and raid a castle. Aha! I don't think this is gonna end in my favor. Oh, there's... Captured. Well, I'm screwed. Whoops. I'm great at this game. I haven't played this. I mean, I'm trying to remember the last time I even played Defender of the Crown. I do remember playing it, but it may have been not since like the 90s, probably. I remember my friend playing it, and we were liking watching it because, I mean, the graphics are very impressive. It was made by a company called Cinemaware, I think, and they really pushed the whole, like, cinematic experience a lot. So let's do a little more lighthearted. Let's find a platformer here because I am just awful at this. We can go to the best of lists are a very nice way to yeah, Lemon top 20. So Secret of Monk Island 2. Settlers, there we have the original on the Amiga, like I mentioned when I was streaming the actually one we do have to do. Turrican is a legendary we'll do that real quick, but it's a legendary platformer. Certainly remember them pushing the Amiga as kind of the core version of that. So this is in 92 then, so certainly a little later in the life of the Amiga, so. Phenomenal soundtrack. The legendary Chris Hulsbeck. I mean, I'm terrible at this game too, but it looks amazing. But now I can, of course, play with the gamepad. Loading times are the same, so... Now I have a button bound to... Otherwise, jump is up, which is just terrible. But then I have a button, which makes the game a lot easier to play. I think one of the big issues with Turrican that I always, and someone else mentioned it when I was watching a video about it, is that there's no damage cap when you get hit. You just keep getting hit and hit and hit, and then you die, and you don't know what happened. But it's so... This series, or Amiga in general, had just a ton of these like character-driven platformers. There were so many of the, you know, we have the cool mascot of the week kind of thing going on. We can check out some more of those, but yeah, like that, I'm dead. It's just really, really hard game. I never been able to get very far in it, and I applaud the people that can, because yeah, I sure can't. What I remember mostly is my friend was playing was a lot of strategy games and simulations. He was a big aircraft nut, so we played like B-17 Bomber or Memphis Belle, games like that. Ah. I need to see there, like, I'm just getting hit constantly. Real focus there, so dang it. Yeah, it's a really tough game, so. The soundtrack by itself is phenomenal, so. It's just so hard. I will use that, I guess. And you can use trainers and stuff like that. And get, you know, more... Whoops. Yeah. Getting screwed over here. The thing with the cracking scene in the day is that, you know, most with them wanting to remove... The levels are really huge, sprawling things you have to explore, too. There were... Good grief. Game over, that's it. Alright, Devon Turkin. So... Most of these games were cracked to be able to play back in the day, and there was a pretty rampant copying scene on the Amiga. I remember, like, my friend would, like, oh, my brother went over to his friend's house, and here's a stack of floppies that he copied, you know, just rampant copying going on. So it was kind of like an honor thing to remove the copy protection on games as fast as possible. There were several scenes, or several different group of people that were doing that, and they often put a cracked in the beginning, which was, they had like, can enable infinite lives, things like that, but they had removed copy protection and added more features into the game too. Dune 2, they got a start here as well. Phenomenal one. Lemmings, this is what I remember Lemmings from, for sure, was the Amiga. And this, I mean, Lemmings came out on like every system ever known. Look at that, it finds the expansion RAM, because not all Amigas had expansion RAM. And gave it access to more graphical fidelity and stuff. I'd watch this intro in. The Amiga has a very specific sound to it. And the more games you play, the more you realize how those sound. But it's capable of just phenomenal graphics and everything. You can definitely see that in the demos. The demo scene was really huge. I guess it still is, but probably not as big as it was in the 90s. Demos where people were trying to mathematically produce imagery and then took also music and add to it too. We can check one out here in a minute, but the idea was to programmatically produce 3D graphics and things like that. Not games, but just amazing visuals. Often on cramming it into like a one floppy, you know. The one thing I will say you miss out on this, and I bet you can put a buzzer on here, is the lack of loading sounds, right? This is playing like a hard drive, so you wouldn't hear it anyway. But the Amiga has a very loud floppy drive, and it was epic to just hear that grinding all the time. There were so long loading times and everything. The floppies were 720K, so they didn't hold that much. think everyone's played Lemmings, or likely. But this version is really, really good. And they had, all the Lemmings came out on Amiga, I'm pretty sure. I mean, this is some era when, you know, PC had almost equivalent port, but the Sound Blaster standard wasn't as established yet, so you had ad-lib sound, things like that, but the Amiga had just a really good sound chip. Still does, I guess. In this case, it's emulated then more or less flawlessly. So the thing with the Amiga core is that it's been developed extensively. I guess what they do kind of sprints on core development, and they put a lot of effort on the Amiga core to make that as solid as possible. So as I understand it, it is definitely one of the... Whoops. Need to click earlier because those guys splatted because they lacked the umbrella. Whoops. It's fine. Of course, again, I don't have to do anything. I just plug in a mouse and it goes, and then plug in the keyboard and it goes. And yes, the Amiga has a custom keyboard, so there's some keys that aren't exactly the same. The Amiga keys, I think, are the Alt keys or something here, or the Control keys, but it works out pretty well. I rescued most of them there. You get more and more features, you're learning how to use it. For this one, I need the stoppers. I want to go this way. But it's, for the time, the Amiga was just a graphical and multimedia powerhouse. Compared to the PC, I mean, imagine what the PC was in late 80s, early 90s. I mean, it just wasn't there yet. We weren't playing any real advanced games on it. The PC definitely took a while to get started. Now, multimedia entered, video acceleration, you know, all that good stuff happened in the mid-90s. I mean, the Amiga was left in the dust then, and the company just went under. Just from bleeding money and just mismanagement, probably just playing documentaries out about it. But they did not survive. They were just kind of first to the scene with this kind of graphical quality. You look at their competitors, which would be the NES and then later the Genesis. But this was a computer too, it could do a lot more. You look at the Atari ST, for example, and it was more of a musical designer machine. It supported MIDI. People were using that. Yeah, it was quite a while before we had multimedia, PC, and all that good stuff. It took a while to get that going, versus the Amiga was just you know, you bought it, the base model, and you could play these games. And that was it. You know, there was nothing to it. You didn't have to expand it. You could expand it to get access to more advanced games. But in the beginning, the Amiga 500, when that launched, was just a revelation. It was just so good, and everyone I knew that had a computer around where I lived had an Amiga, basically. It was the computer to have. People were programming games on it, composing music, playing games like crazy, of course, and still using it for, you know, word processing and everything. It was like an all-in-one computer too, so it was decently affordable for what it was. I don't think there was anything that was... That's why that was such a revelation. There was nothing else that could compete with it at the time. But again, yeah, PC definitely caught up and surpassed it handily in the 90s later on. Now we gotta nuke those guys. This is curious to see what the processor does, because this usually goes really slow on a stock Amiga. It wasn't bad. On this NES version too, it just really slow as little particles explode there all over. Alright, rescued 90%, that's pretty good. Do one more level, then we'll check out another game. So, if a game that strikes me or I just really get nostalgic for, we'll stick around longer, but for now I just want to kind of hop around a little bit. Yeah, difference. If you haven't played Lemmings, and you know, most people probably have, but you have to assign job functions to the Lemmings. They will just keep walking until they die, and they have no intelligence. They only do what you tell them, so in this case, I need them to climb up here. Music also, again, is really good. Oops, I missed that on that guy. Trying to find a good balance with having the sound. You can actually hear it well without it being too overpowering, so just let me know if it gets too loud or quiet. Go. Gotta wait for that guy there. Where the Amiga, of course, was not as powerful would be 3D graphics. I mean, there's no acceleration or anything, so it's totally software-based. So vector-based games, and I can show you one that's really cool here in a minute. Just brute force by the CPU. So the stock 6800 processor and Amiga just didn't have enough grunt to do that very well. The most famous one being Frontier Elite 2, which was Elite, the spacefaring trading space sim. We'll exit this here now. Was brutally slow on the original one. It's so slow that when I booted that up a few years ago when I got an Amiga again, I was like, it's gotta be something wrong, right? It's running so slow. No, that's what it ran. 7 megahertz processor, whatever it was in the original one, just could not handle 3D graphics on that level. So for this stuff, it's 2D powerhouse. But otherwise, no. Civilization, play that on here too. UFO Anime Known, fantastic game. Wings, great game. This is a very good top list. Another World is a groundbreaking game. Let's play some pinball. Pinball Fantasies. I have to move the keyboard over a little bit here too. I'm assuming it has to do with the... Oh, this is the AGA version. So we will do Speed Devils. Because I'm cool like that. Yeah, it must be the AGA version of this then. So that's the advanced graphics array, which used newer graphics engine, newer graphic chipset to produce that. Because I don't remember that menu being there in that way, so... But that's fine. And you can take turns on this one too, it's pretty cool. Oops, that's a port launch. I just want to see where the buttons work. And... yeah, the catalog is just insane. There's just so many games, and that thing is so well made that when I started installing Amiga, or I was looking at like, okay, cool, I want to install Amiga from scratch, and I want to learn how to use it, because, oh, come on, I'm going to rob now. To get it going and everything, which I still can do. I can add another hard disk to it, install from scratch, and do whatever you want, and just load another hard drive. But the fact that this was prepackaged is just so easy to get going. But Amiga has so many games of varying degree and quality. Obviously, there was part of the mascot wars a little bit too. There's like a billion, like, as I mentioned, character platformers on it. But it has flight simulators. It has racing games of all variety. It's got pinball games. It's got platformers. I mean, and tons. One thing that I don't see a lot is strategy games like Defender of the Crown, Dune 2, Battle Isle, tons of deep strategy games. It's a huge catalog. So they're like 16-bit, or at least, you know, be in between 8 and 16. That's a fantastic system. Alright, bonus. I almost did that on purpose. It's, you know, smooth scrolling, well made, great sound chip. It's a pleasure of a system to mess with, especially in a format like this when you don't have to do much. You just plug it and play. You're done. Install a pack and follow a guide, and there you go. You're all done. You have the perfect Amiga for all eternity, basically. Minus the fact that it's not, you know, the real keyboard. But people have done that too. They certainly have. There are ways to connect a real Amiga keyboard to USB, and at that point, I mean, you see where that's going, right? You basically put a Mister inside an Amiga case with the keyboard and everything, and at that point, you basically have the most powerful Amiga ever on modern components. So if it fails, we just buy a new one, compared to an actual Amiga fails, so you're spending money, so... Yeah, this is a really cool game. It looks really good, too. The Digital Illusions, which is the maker of these pinball games, is now known as DICE, or the makers of the Battlefield series. The yearly installment, or how many they're up to now, I don't even know. A Swedish company, actually, so... It's funny, because I love pinball games on consoles and computers, but I'm awful at them. So, I think when I played the Streaming Genesis a few weeks ago, I was going through just finding random pinball games, and that was kind of fun, so... Boy, that didn't end up well. Really quick, let's take me back to the... Yeah, okay. We'll do a $1 billion game show. We'll do one more table, and we'll hop around to something else. It's just... The variety on the Amiga platform, there's just so many different titles of varying degrees, and you can find junk on here too, but if you stay to the top list or like hidden gems and stuff, you're gonna have a good time. There you go, 1 player. Yeah, I said you can play 2 player or 3 player or whatever and take turns with the balls, so. Oh. Well, that was good, whatever that was. The thing that I felt with the Pinball Fantasy, Dreams, Illusions, all the ones that they made is the ball physics, to me, of course, are key in a pinball game on a computer or console. If the ball feels too floaty or something, but this has just the right kind of mechanical oomph feel to it. And it's got a satisfying click when you... like that click there, it's a good sound effect, and the sound is good. Feels good to play. That's so key. Oh no! One of the ones I really enjoy is Epic Pinball on PC. It's really good quality, but there's so many good ones now. I think Pinball Effect's probably the gold standard. I'm not sure, Brian, you're very in on the pinball games, on which one's the best now in software. I know there's a lot of pinball arcade tables you can build and whatnot, but maybe Pinball Effects is the one to have these days as far as like software pinball. I mean, I guess the big thing is if you build a good pinball engine, then you can add tables and stuff. So, of course, this was only so much you can cram on a single or 2 floppies back in the day. Then you would usually have, in this case here, 4 tables, because you're very limited by graphics, of course, and how much you can store. 720K floppies, it was not always fun to switch games, or load games. I think it's Defender of the Crown. On Amiga, that's got like, I mean, it was like 8 floppies or more, or something like that. You're just switching floppies all the time. And sometimes you would have you would have 1 floppy almost dedicated to an intro, and because it took so much space, they want to make a really cool intro to a small game. So you'd have like an entire floppy, and then when the intro was downloading, you switch floppy to the actual game. I think one such we'll play after this, which is kind of a favorite of mine, Nuclear War, which is a strategy game. I'll show you in a minute here. Brian, I think you've seen it before, but that one for sure on the floppy, it has like 1 floppy is the entire game, or the entire intro, and then the second floppy is the game itself. Best thing is, like, there's really good ways to emulate the floppy drive on hardware Amiga now. You can do that quite easily by using what's called a Gotek drive. What you do is you replace the actual physical disk drive in the Amiga, and people have written software for the Gotek floppy emulator, which is basically meant for industrial use. And again, people find these things and they use them for everything. And it fools the Amiga into thinking, yes, I'm receiving instructions from a true Amiga floppy drive, so I will read the game just like I'm doing it. So you put an image file on a USB stick and you're good to go. Even that has some compatibility issues and everything. Since you are, again, emulating the software instruction set, but this with it being, and I'm a novice here, but they use the HDL, which is Hardware Description Language, which tells the FPGA how to act and what logic circuits to activate to emulate the actual chip. Is much more accurate, so you're going to have a lot less software problems. Of course, now you get a curated collection like this, and it really helps, because someone's already gone through, found all the bloat, taken it out. I mean, that's a huge thanks to the community, and I think we're in a... Hey, alright, I got an extra ball. We're in an envious spot right now, because all the stuff is so well baked and just works. Now, there's plenty of ones that are cutting edge, like the Neo Geo just came out. Apparently, the person who did it, which, you know, all the power to that person, they took the actual Neo Geo chips, excuse me, and they ground down the top of the circuits so they could actually see them with a microscope and then trace them out to follow them. That's how accurate they're trying to be. So it really gives you, again, that best accuracy. That's what they're after, because, I mean, you can do a lot of these things in software emulation. RetroPie, fantastic platform, MAME, all that stuff. But it's still not quite as accurate as here. They'll show certain examples of, like, look at this intro sequence, how it's kind of staticky here. Like, that's what's supposed to be there, because that's the actual console arcade does. And that's what they emulate here with the FPGA so well. With the software, kind of, as I understand it, and I'm using very maybe poor ways to explain it, but you're taking a lot of shortcuts to make it work, which is fine. MAME has been a fantastic thing for many years, and I played many arcade games on it, but the arcade machines that they're doing here uses the same ROM files, but it's so much more accurate to the actual board. Alright. Alright, so we will go to Nuclear War, because I want to check that out. Sensible World of Soccer is a fantastic soccer game, so Secret of Monkey. There's just so many amazing titles on here. Plus then, if we go to all games, oh, there's L, you know. Okay, there's a ton of games there. But M, there's a ton of games there. There's just so many. So before we check that out, I want to do a demo scene here. I'll show what I mean. So the demos then were impressive programmatic things that they put on like a single floppy, basically, with some kind of music to make it really cool. So I am going to kick that off, grab myself a beverage, and I'll be right back, and you get to see a little bit of Enigma, one of my favorite demos here, mostly because the music is phenomenal. I will return once it loads. There we go. It's almost October, so we have Oktoberfest. So again, the cool thing, or the impressive part about these things here, is that, you know, they're usually, like, I mean, again, I'm not an expert here, but they're, you know, coded, and usually pressing the hardware beyond what was expected. So, like, you know, things like this here, they're really trying to show off, like, hey, look, it's just a cube, and there are certain things that the instructions, or the CPU wasn't made to handle. So then they figure out ways to do it through trickery, tomfoolery. Now, it's not a game, right? So they have very narrow scope that they have to program this for. But the Amiga is just littered with these sort of demos, and they're amazing, all of them, to watch. Just from a coolness perspective, to watch all these effects and everything happening, and cool music. People will compose music specific for demos, and back then it was a big deal when a new group released a new demo, and it often happened at demo parties or big places where they were probably just rampant, you know, copying whatever, but really showing what the machine was capable of, usually using some sort of trickery to make it work, because it was not something that was supported. Like, a lot of this polygon scrolling, or polygon you're seeing here now, the fact that they have different things on each side was not something by that the Amiga was designed to do originally, but they figured out a way to do it. I'm sure, again, tricking the machine somehow. Or in this case here, doing a full 3D effect here. Like, yeah, it seems simplistic by today's standard, and it feels kind of like a Super Effects game on Super Nintendo, right? But this was very, very impressive for this sort of machine. Now, bear in mind, we're running on what would at the time be a amazing Amiga. This does run natively on Amiga 500, so it runs a lot more sluggish there. Swedish flag there too. We're gonna exit out of that because I want to go check out Nuclear War. So I just love this menu here because this makes it so easy. Normally with the WHD load, you launch a software and it will give you basically folders on the workbench, and you find the game you want. But in this case here, you know, I can just do this, super simple. And this is really cool too. If you don't want to mess with anything, you just want Amiga to run, then you just follow the simple instructions to install this hard drive file. There's plenty of different ones that are similar with different menus. And there you go. You don't have to know that much about the Amiga, but if you want to, on this FPGA platform, if you want to install from scratch with the original floppy, not original floppies, you can image the original floppies if you want, but install it from scratch on a new hard drive, you can. And that's what's so cool. It gives you all those options, and you don't have to destroy what you had. You can save this configuration as like a predetermined one, and then just switch to your, you know, custom one when you want to mess around with it. So you can have different workbench versions, and I don't know. I'm just so thankful for the community making all these things possible, because they have really taken away all the things that were difficult with this sort of emulation, especially with being so accurate here. Yes, this is the nuclear war where the entire intro is on the entire first floppy. Yeehaw! And this is, of course, a parody of the Cold War era. And you are rewarded for making nuclear war. Here's where you normally switch to floppy and you wait, but WHD load, of course, again, that was available back in the day. WHD load just was an installation method, so. Alright, yeah, we have some caricatures here. We'll have Gandhi, a not smart Gandhi. You can see Gaddafi, PM Thatcher. Let's have Ronald Reagan, Gorbachev, and Infidel Castro. So, the objective here is to explode everyone else away in nuclear war. So you have a few tools at your disposal to make that happen. So, you can produce weapons, which is probably what we're going to do now. We don't have enough of anything. And then you have to defend your country, but also then just nuke everyone else into oblivion. So, we will build weapons. That is our turn. We'll click this to end the turn. Press this for launch, and I know I've run this before on the Gotek floppy emulator on my actual Amiga, and it actually crashed ways in, so that wasn't flawless. But in this case here, this has been so well developed, I feel pretty high confidence that this is not gonna. I'm sure there's still bugs and errors to work out, but in general, it seems to work great. So I certainly have not run into any problems at all running the Amiga on here for sure, and I think that's. Oh, an earthquake took out that city. That stinks for him. Countries people add. Let's see what they made. 1 megaton bomber, 20 megaton, 50 megaton warheads. So I have stuff. This is some propaganda. How about for Gandhi? Yep. And nuke my city. Only 8 million killed. Well, quiet game too. Crank it up a little bit so you can hear footsteps when they walk into my cities. Blitz Gandhi's people with lies. So the idea is that you grow your cities, but if the cities are destroyed, then they can't come back. So 10 million, you dirty rat. So I'm going to do a defense system here now. Invites your country's people to barbecue. 9 million people. My goodness. Oh no, they blew up my city. Wow. Okay, so the defense is then to protect you from ICBMs and bombers, but I didn't get any strikes against me, so. The problem is I don't have... Prepare a bomber. 50 megaton capacity, yeah, that's fine. So you have to prepare the delivery system and then you select the payload, so. Ouch, he launched a cow at me and it killed 10 million people, so. This game is really hard, because, oh my goodness, yeah. There you go, now I went from my, probably gonna get screwed over here. Sometimes you get really unlucky and you get ganged up on, and then you're just done for. We're gonna load up a 50 megaton bomb, and we're gonna drop it on this city here. Payback. Oop, push red button. Alright, well that city should be taken care of then, because, there we go. Nuclear toys. What? Dud warhead? Oh, come on. Alright, so now we don't really have anything, so we gotta build some more arsenals. Or a nit. He's mad now. Yeah, the really only way to win this one is if you get lucky and they start fighting against each other. Alright, defectors leave for your country. 8 million. Nice. See what they build. 10, 20, 20... Not sure if you heard that, but when you build a 100 megaton warhead, you hear the ooh. So, we don't have any delivery systems at all, though, is the problem. And I don't have any defense, so... I have 20 megaton missiles, but that's not going to do much. I think we're going to go with propaganda instead. See if we can't get rid of that city there. Concert, 7 million leave. You get real lucky, aliens come down and just give you like 10 million people or something. 2 million, not a lot. You'll pay for that. I sure will, but for now we're gonna build some more stuff. And it complains that you're stockpiling if you get too much, so... Alright, they really are coming to my country. Yeah, they're really going at it, so I feel I need to go off. Oh my goodness, he's really strong up here. See if we get any toys here now. Great, warheads, but nothing to deliver them with, so... We'll do more propaganda. How about Ganji? Can we get rid of that city? And often they don't give you benefits for doing the same thing over and over. Ah. Oh, come on. The propaganda strike failed and they defected. Alright, fine, we'll just prepare a 20 megaton missile. Gravedigger missile. They keep coming back, 7 million. Ronnie Reagan is not doing so good. There we go. 16 million. 20 megatons. So let's see if we can get rid of that city. Push the button. Yoop. But think about it this way: you're playing this game now, and you know, oh no. Dang it. I think you used the defense system to... Yep. Ah. We have nothing to deliver on missiles or power, so we need to build more. But you're playing this game now in the late 80s, early 90s, right? A lot of these games. And it's really cool. Like, I don't think there was anything else that competed with it, like I mentioned earlier. As far as what it could do, type of games it had, plus them being able to do everything else. I mean, if you're going to buy one computer to have at home in the late 80s, I think it was pretty much the Amiga, right? Now, Apple, of course, was popular as well, but yeah, we'll prep a 50 megaton. Boy, well, he's out. Is that his city? I'm not sure. 50 megatons. Alright, let's see what we can do. Let's go big. Hopefully he doesn't protect himself again there. Nice. 8 million. 21 million. That's substantial. He is not happy. I think this number is their feelings towards you. Since I haven't done anything with Castor here, he is indifferent. I do have a big bomber. Yeah, we'll prep that. Hopefully it doesn't get shot down. You can put 100 megaton on that one. I think every type of game is represented on the Amiga. You have, like I mentioned earlier, platformer, strategy games, simulators. It was big on quote-unquote accurate simulators. See if we can level this city here. Well, there's 100 megaton. I have to waste that on a... They were really big on simulator games. I remember my friend was playing just endless flight simulators, basically. Yep, that 100 megaton took care of that, pretty well. Let's do some propaganda. Be great if we get rid of one of his cities here if we get lucky now. I think it just kind of speeds up as the more you play here now on things that happen I'm almost amazed I made it this far. I thought I was going to die immediately there. But again, your cities cannot return. So, not good. I got to build more. Boy, we're just trading citizens there. Yeah, that's the thing. This game, you have seen everything this game will do except like random events. So that means that usually play sessions aren't that long. So it's a really nice one to just hop in, play around, and then, you know, you can be done. 100 meg missile. Do some more propaganda. So that's the nice part. It's kind of a bite-sized game. You don't have to play this for hours. Rounds don't last that long. Alright. That city's gone. Build some more toys. Yeah, it almost plays like a board game, right? So... Boy, 9 million people. As there are other games in this genre, if you will, that are certainly bigger. Wow, not a lot. So, let's radiate 20 meg. Oh, your SimCity was on here, and you got all the Sim games. So you definitely had deep games, for sure. And again, some of those flight simulators are really deep. There's a lot of, like, U-boat simulator games, things like that, and just really complicated games. But there were some of these that are simpler, too. Like, I mean, again, besides the random events now, I'm hoping for an alien coming down and giving me some more citizens. Whoops. Boy, Gorbachev's just gonna win, yeah. 14 million, okay. We'll do some propaganda, because I need more citizens. Problem now is I have one city left, and then if they get us yeah, then just screw it. So these are fighting, even if I manage to survive Ganji. Alright. 8 million. 9 million people, alright. So I guess we'll prepare a 100 megaton missile, so we can maybe hit that big one with the 50. Whew, 1 million. That's good. I mean, that's what they're trying to lull you into this, you know. Oh gosh, only 1 million people died. Great. It's awful, really, but I mean, it's such an hilarious manner. So let's do a 50 megaton warhead here. Well, there goes that guy. 15, alright. I think all your stockpile, or gets launched when you die, so... Well, maybe I'm wrong, I can't remember. Oh good, he's targeting there. However, now I have one city left, so I'm kinda... So, I have a GR2 bomber. I don't have any large warheads, which is a problem. So, I think we'll do propaganda again. I don't have a choice, I think. It would be great if I can destroy that city. Yeah, it's a really nice bite-sized game, because we play 1 round or 2 rounds, and then you're kind of done with it, but it doesn't take... Hey, I'll leave. Ah, propaganda strike failed. Let's build some more weapons. 1 million back. See what we made. Bomber. Okay. I don't have any large... Alright, we're going to have to build some more. You're really at the mercy of random there, so... Ooh, holy cow. 24 million. That's not good. Ouch. We're down to a tenth. That's right. My brave country will soldier on. Ooh, 100 megaton warhead. I can use that if I have time. So hopefully I'll last one more turn so I can deliver my 100 megaton payload. Nope, I am dead. Now, yeah, they just... All your stockpile gets launched. And now it speeds up to finish the game for you, which is really fun to watch. It's like solitary at the end, right? It's just flying through. And then you get a fantastic win screen of... Nice job, Garbage F, you won. It's a hard game to win. You kind of gotta get lucky to play it, so... if you're joining us late, we're playing Amiga on the Mr. FPGA project, which is a little development board that lets you basically accurately emulate basically any... well, not any, I should say, a select list of consoles and classic computers. Let's see, you're on the top 100. So Web Populous. That's right, I remember you, Brian, talking about Populous. Did you like that? So let's try Populous 1. I haven't played that in years. Or is it Powermonger? I know Populous and Powermonger always get mixed up in my head. Oh, that's loud. Yeah, it's the difference in volume too on these games, so... I just love the fact that, I don't know, it feels nicer to play. When I was testing out some stuff yesterday, I was playing on Genesis, and I was like looking at a buffered signal on the capture, and I was playing on the CRT, and the difference was noticeable in how much more tight it felt to actually play it on the CRT. The idea with this is that the input using a wire controller, as long as the controller is, supports and everything, is near 0 frames of lag. And the lag is normally, you're kind of used to it today. You play on a flat panel that has lag built into it. You play on a mini console that's lag, and in most cases it's fine. I'm not like a latency snob or anything, but then when you do play a real console, which just gets really close to it, it just feels tighter and feels better, especially platformers, so... So yeah, unfortunately now, I'll have no idea what to do. How does this play on a controller? I mean, I could fire it up on the SNES right after this if I wanted to, but... I think the Amiga is more powerful on a pure hardware basis, but then it did not have the expansion chipsets like Super FX and other ones that... Start game. Yeah, I don't remember how to play this at all. Ooh. I remember, like, you should flatten out stuff so they can build bigger areas. But this lends itself very well to keyboard and mouse, of course, so... So I can imagine it'd be a little, Yeah, it is really good with keyboard and mouse. Does it? Do you know if the SNES version supports the mouse or something? I doubt it does, but that'd be cool. I feel like that was an untapped thing. I think some games on SNES supported the SNES mouse, which I do have. But I feel like there were certainly not that many that did. I know King Arthur's World is kind of a Lemmings-alike game that definitely supported mouse, and that enhanced that game a lot. And it was a slow-paced game, so it wasn't too bad to play with the gamepad. But the mouse really just kicked it up another notch, so... I think your followers, you need to get bigger and bigger. And then you send them out, I guess? I just don't remember how to play this game, but it's a classic Peter Molyneux game in that it was a god-style game, right? You're playing as a deity trying to make your people bigger, basically. See, I don't remember how to play this at all. Aha. Erect your stuff, dude. Can I drop my guys here? Yeah, I just don't remember. I just remember this being kind of like a I don't know, just kind of messing around to get it to work, but I have to grow my town even more. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Can't really do anything more there. If you remember what to do next, you're welcome to pipe up, because yeah, I don't remember at all from this game. I remember they were Peter Molyneux, which kind of really came to its own when it came to the God style game, was in black and white. They were trying to like remove all interface. You know, it was all just like, it's so intuitive to play. You don't need the controls or buttons or anything, and it just, I feel it was detrimental to the playing the game. It was trying to be over intuitive. Like, it's not bad to use a little bit of buttons here and there if they needed. In black and white, you actually had to cast spells by drawing on the ground. It was really complicated to make that work properly and at speed. I'm sure some people are really good at it, but I certainly was not, so. I probably should have done the tutorial, because I have no idea what any of this means. Yeah. I don't know how to build any bigger civilization here. Like, I can't make them grow anymore. I guess, oh, there we go. So that's the miracles I have available here. Well, they're really... Because that used up the... I should probably play the tutorial, I'm guessing. But yeah, this works well on a mouse and keyboard. And like many games of the mid-late 80s, they were certainly released on PC as well. But again, the PC had no unified standard at that point. AdLib was, of course, popular. You know, Tandy tried to become like the de facto one, and a lot of games supported Tandy very well. But nothing quite had the standardization that Amiga did. Because you made a game for Amiga, you knew exactly what chipset you had in it. I mean, most of the time you had more advanced ones later on, but in the late 80s, if you made a game for Amiga, you knew what to target. You targeted the Amiga 500 because it was the most popular one sold. Yeah, and it runs just fantastic because of that faster CPU here as well. But I remember running really well on the base one too. I've tried to set the clock down to the normal speed, if you will, but I think it would cost us some, especially if you do it on flight. Let's see what happens. May not even take effect until you reboot, but I noticed some of the games don't launch because I think that it was really made for this configuration, this particular game collection, which is fine. I mean, this is what you're going to run most of the time. So you're running at like, I mean, you're getting up to close to probably a 286 as far as performance goes, so it's definitely faster than the stock Amiga was, so the 500. But again, it's still just a fantastic machine, and it was easy to develop for in that sense, so there were so many games being published for it. Alright, Popol is great. Let's hop to something I maybe know. Not Surgeon Strike. Let's do a Christmas game. I heard really good things about Fire and Ice. It's a platformer. But again, you can use this. Much easier than using the up button. Unless it's freaking out. Okay, loaded. Christmas with Cool Coyote. Look at that water effect. Ooh. They're coming off using the legendary SID chip from the C64, which produces a very specific sound. Whoops, and I'm dead. That was good. This is bizarre. But it shows you what it's capable of, too. Now, most people probably would not have had, you know, that, goodness, hard. And, yeah, a little grating music there. great. Game over. And that. Try it one more time, but it had so many games for it. I mean, like you saw on the list there, just so many games. And obviously, like any system, you're gonna have. My goodness, you're gonna have a varying degree. I think the seagull just pooped on me. I think where this system really shone, or shined, or whatever you say, really was the more complex, a little bit like more complex games. There's a, I'm thinking of like, Rescue Embassy or Hostages on, it was on NES as well. A really cool, like, hostage rescue game where you have to first place your guys, then perform, like, excuse me, a hostage rescue. And games like that, and you know, simulators and stuff like that, they just lend themselves very well to this kind of computer. You know, yeah, sure, it's a game console, but or not a game console, but it played games really well. But it's an actual computer, so you have the benefit of having the keyboard and mouse. You know, Dune 2, I remember my friends playing that. Very slow-paced game, but it was the first, you know, real-time strategy game. So. That's a little grating there. Which one was I thinking of? Because you have games like Theme Park involved simulations. Megalomania is a similar like God-style game. I don't think there's any. Beat the Steel Sky. A lot of point-and-click adventure games. Fantastic on here. There are a lot of dungeon crawlers too. I mean, there's just so many, and there's Elite too. I'll actually launch that because I'll show. This intro is the thing they use for benchmarking processor for the Amiga, because you'll see why very quickly. Yeah, this runs dog slow on the stock Amiga 500. I mean, just crawling. To the point this looks way too fast for me because it is so sluggish. And I'm curious, I might try and set the processor to slower and reboot the core and see if I can run it, so you can see how really slow it is. This then is full 3D polygons, which is why it's raw horsepower on the CPU making this happen. So this is the standard benchmarking to see how a game or a processor is running, and it's pretty much only the 20 megahertz and faster that can do this well. The newer accelerators for the actual Amigas, you can pop in a 50 megahertz CPU if you wanted to, and some of them overclock to that. And this game then, or this runs here super smooth, but I imagine you're going to have some compatibility problems at that point, because I don't think there ever was a 50 megahertz Amiga. And this runs faster than any real Amiga would, technically, because you don't have to wait for storage loading, things like that. But of course, it's still trying to emulate that accuracy. I use the word emulate again, because I think it's not a taboo word. It is emulation, but a definition of it. I mean, it's replication, and they're trying to find different words to differentiate from, like, a RetroPie. Amiga runs great on, like, a Pi 2. You can use a Pi 2 as a dedicated Amiga emulation machine, and it will run almost all of these in a similar experience. But you won't have that same accuracy, and you probably have glitches and stuff like that. So let's try, see if we can make this work. I'm going to try and set the CPU to the standard. And then I'm going to... I'll do a save config. So then we have that. I'm going to reset it, and I'll see if it takes that CPU. So now we're resetting the core, which then reboots the Amiga. But I think that the hard disk, does it like booting into that? Yeah, I think that's what happened, is when I tried to do this, it just did not like booting into the... I think that the menu and everything is probably built to be running with that 6820, so that's alright. That is the Guru Meditation, basically the equivalent of blue screen. So, you saw that Guru Meditation error there, which means there's a software error on Amiga. So, I'm guessing that this menu then requires the 6820 to even run, so yeah, it's a nice way to explore, like, the top ones using this kind of, there's Lemmings 2. menu, and it's nice that it has the photos and everything. It makes it really easy to find cool games. So I was trying to think of a beat 'em up on Amiga. Yeah, we did. There's lots of different pinball ones. Zool is another platformer. It's weird. They were trying to make Zool the mascot for a while, and Zool was like made by Chupa Chups, the lollipops, and it almost turned into like a mascot for Amiga. It was like odd. Ooh, we'll run this. I haven't tried this in forever. I definitely have not played this game on a faster machine. So this would be a racing game. 3D racing game. Should run very well on this one. And it did not run. Did not run very well on the basic one. Ah, yes, it supports computer linking and link two computers together, two Amigas. I'll do a practice. Practice the ski jump. And this used like really cool like 3D generated stages here, so you can actually rotate around. This was not this fast on the stock Amiga 500 for sure. But really cool. You're supposed to... So imagine this running even slower. You need to stay on the track, stay on target, stay on... Oh, whoa. Oh, we're off. Smash. I'll lift you back. And that was pretty sick of the game, and I remember my friend playing this, and it was just so hard to stay on the track. But look at that! I remember, like, looking at those flames coming out of the engine, like, oh man, that is so cool! Full speed ahead! The grabbing speed! Whee! Can't see anything. Remember, the Amiga was not made for this sort of 3D game, to say the least. Yep, we're going 200 miles an hour. Absolutely. Uh-oh, that's a hard landing. Yep. You see the frame cracking? Hi, Cat. At the top there, that indicates how damaged your car is. I have no idea what's up right now. I think it might actually accelerate on its own. Whoa. Up and down to accelerate, that's weird. Again, they have to be creative to make it work on the joystick and everything. There we go. I thought I was hitting the brakes. I'm so used to, especially using a controller, you think you're controlling it like with the buttons, and it didn't do anything, so. Yes, Cat, hello. Come on. This will end really well. We're going full now. Whee! Oh, I didn't boost enough. This is going to go great. Oh, wow. Yeah, this is going to end very well. Wreck. Haha. Oh, well. I remember this game being like, oh wow, that's really impressive. I don't know that it's fun to actually play. Ooh, Swiv. Now I'm just having fun, like exploring games I used to play. Swiv is Super Silkworm 4, I think it's called. It's a top-down scrolling shooter. I think I mentioned this on past streams too. The Super Nintendo version of this one is great, because one player plays a helicopter, and the other one plays the Jeep. I think it looks even better on Super Nintendo, but still, the Amiga just has just really good like scrolling, and it's just really good. But I mean, this is a 2D powerhouse, especially for the day. Ah, it's a better weapon. Yeah, the Super Nintendo version of this is really impressive, but that came out a lot later too. The cool thing with that is that the player 1 is the helicopter, player 2 is the Jeep, and you can't get hit by, like the helicopter can't hit by ground vehicles, and vice versa then for the Jeep. But it makes for a really cool dynamic, because you kind of got to back each other up. And my friend and I used to play that on Super Nintendo a lot, where we would, you know, we knew exactly where the weapons were, who got what, and whatnot. So it made it for really, we got a little further every time, right? So it was fun to play that way. But yeah, I think the Super Nintendo version runs even better, but it, whoops, it had time to perfect it at that point. Well, that's not normal. Ah. I'm all boxed in here. Yeah, I think I prefer the, I got a single weapon upgrade. Oh well. That wasn't that fun. I remember the Super Nintendo version is a lot better. Syndicate is another game where really plays well on the Amiga, but it's a, you're managing little agents in a cyberpunk future. A lot of point-and-click games, for sure. Oh, goodness gods. That's a, I think this is ported to like almost every platform at the time, even C64. It was certainly on the Super Nintendo, but the one I remember is on the Amiga. It was also a showcase graphical game because it looks really good on the Amiga. Great music, great graphics, great gameplay. Just a... Kitty sneezing. Kind of milking that intro there. As a nostalgia machine, there are of course ways you can do this on a computer. WinUAE is a Windows-based emulator for Amiga. Fantastic. You can run this on a Pi, things like that. But what this promises then is even better accuracy to duplicate the actual experience of playing it on real hardware. And it's interesting too, because you're getting these games here that don't rely so much on the CPU for performance, that it doesn't run that fast. And I think this probably run better on the Super Nintendo. There might be some problem too with it, that it doesn't like this particular setup or something, but yeah, I remember running better on Super Nintendo than this. But it definitely kind of like a... Bitmap Brothers made a lot of cool Amiga games. And they were definitely a showcase for the system a lot. But looks really good, plays really good. You're a weird guy. Throwing daggers. Jumping really far. There we go, treasure key. I pick it up. There we go. Not always intuitive controls, I will say that, because all these games had their own ideas, right? It was... Nintendo and Sega did a lot for, you know, kind of defining what a platformer should be. There was plenty of platformers on the Amiga, but I definitely wouldn't say they're the strong suit compared to the consoles. Yay. Ta-da! But, you know, this was featured in, like, every magazine because of just the graphical design of it. It looks very clean, plays well and all that stuff, but just looks impressive, I guess, is the big thing. Oh, well. Ah! But certainly it's more sluggish than I remember. Which is still funny, because it's funny how, when you revisit games you haven't played for so long, how your rose-tinted glasses color the experience. I mean, usually you were just less picky back in the day, maybe, because, I mean, not like you were going to, like, What do you mean, Mom? This game isn't in like full spectrum RGB with, you know, a hard drive attached. I mean, you don't care. Play the game because that's what you had. Yeah, and I think that certainly, you know, we can thank Mario and stuff like that. I think it's hard, like, as many things as Nintendo does or doesn't do, it's hard to argue with their platformer feel, in my opinion. Like, I played Mario 1 on this thing, and it feels so responsive and tight, and it feels almost like a, you know, the real deal, so... I've always preferred Mario's feel or floatiness versus how, like, Sonic feels, but that's a personal preference, of course. I know a lot of people really like the, you know, the momentum that Sonic gets, but I prefer the direct responsiveness of Mario. So that's a cool game. Sorry, I'm game hopping so much, but it's so addictive to do this kind of thing, to just kind of remember and experience games. That is a great game as well, top-down shooter game, kind of like a top-down Contra thing. What he's called James Bond 2. James Bond was a big thing for a while. And we'll do Lotus's Free Turbo. There were a lot of these like from the behind racing games, scrolling games. Whoa, that's very loud all of a sudden. All these games have different, very good music in this game, though. Just fantastic music on the Amiga platform in general. Some spec porn here for the Lotus. A lot of these games were precursors to one of my favorite games on Super Nintendo, which is Top Gear. Gotta pick our track on the CD player. Oh yeah, there we go. We have to... Oh, that's awful. So... And of course, in this particular one, is less sound effects, I think, when... I should have, The music is phenomenal, though. And the Amiga has a very distinct sound to it. And that's really what... It gives it has a character on its own, but... So, the controls here are that you would push up to accelerate, and hold in a button. And shift gear, which I selected manual by mistake here, I have to basically push up and then push the button to shift up to the next one. So this may be one that's better on a joystick. You get used to it, works, but... I have a feeling this runs a lot slower with the second player on the second screen there. So now I have to, you can see the RPM meter, they're slowly going up. I had to shift down all the way to lower gear, so yeah, I should have picked auto. And it's like they were trying to be, you know, quote-unquote simulation. It's still an arcade game, so... There are very few of these type of arcade games where manual shifting is... fun, I guess. I mean, this is an arcade racer. You don't have to worry about shifting. There, I had to shift to, like, second gear now. But because the sound chip, and they all had names, they might... Like, they had, like, Gary was one of the chips on the Amiga, Denise was another one. If you open an Amiga 500, they all have, like, names printed on the circuit board. what their function was or whatever. And, alright, we'll do one more track here, see if I can do better this time. I don't know how to play. Too bad I'm not getting any engine indicator except looking at my RPM on what speed I'm doing. It just produces a fantastic sound. The same way that the Genesis has that dirty, twangy sound that's so iconic. To me, the Amiga has a very distinct sound. And a lot of composers used the Amiga to, you know, make real music and sending demo tapes. And I had a friend for sure who was composing a ton of stuff on the Amiga. And, you know, it produces a very distinct sound. You know, not near to real instrumentation or anything, but it was impressive that you could do all that from the home. And again, you had to use the channels you had available, so you had stereo, you know, left and right channels, which each contained 2 tracks each, and that was what you had to work with, right? So you had to be pretty creative with how you overlap the music or which instrumentation you put where. And that's what you notice on a lot of the more advanced Amiga tracks. It could use fairly advanced sampling in those mod files, but which mod is just a module that most Amiga games use for their music, and what the you might recognize names such as Pro Tracker, which is the one on Amiga. Fast Tracker is the one on PC, I believe. Fast Tracker 2 is probably the most common one there, which uses some more like mod style music, but Amiga certainly was the big one there. This is a difficult control method. It's a little bit limited in the sense that that's probably the biggest drawback of control for the Amiga, which the emulator, of course, here, the core, I should say. I want to make the internet people upset. Handles, because you can remap an additional button. Or any button you want. You can have alternate buttons, which helps a lot with the up for jump thing. That's so many platformer use, which is just god-awful. Honestly, there's no way around it. That feels terrible to play. There we go, now we're getting a groove. Oh, I'm running out of fuel. It's fine. Come on, come on, come on, you can make it. Whew. So yeah, and this one you have to refuel as well, but I made it, so there's a cat here. Okay. Cool game. Check out a couple more. And the F10 to exit here is strictly on the WHD load scenario or situation. RoboCop 3. Well, we pretty much have to. I'm not expecting miracles here. In fact, RoboCop 3, I think, was actually a vector-based, like, 3D game. It was, like, well ahead of its time. Cattail. Give it a second. I'm not sure if it's loading. Maybe it's actually one that's broken. Some of these, if I remember right, I watched a video pretty recently on this one. Yeah, we'll find out. I'm sure they're just awful platformers, because this isn't loading anyway. I'm guessing, if I remember right, it was something like the crack on that one was like just came out or something. I mean, something ridiculous, because some of these cracks on some of these games. Oh, I remember now. RoboCop 3 has actually a hardware dongle requirement. I think that was cracked, but I'm not sure in this version that's on here. Yes, we do have RoboCop 1, 2, and 3. So 3 uses a 3D thing. I think it was supposed to be... Yeah, there we go. It should freeze at loading screen, and it tells you. That's really cool. You can see at the bottom here, it says freezes at loading screen. So, yeah, I think it has to do with this. It's not patched properly, because, yeah, it literally had a little dongle you're supposed to put in the game port on the Amiga, and you're supposed to check that. And I believe Modern Vintage Gamer just did a video on it. It's really fascinating, so check that out if you're interested. But alright, when is this? RoboCop 1 or 2? Which one are we starting with? We'll start with 1. We'll check out RoboCop 1 and then hop to 2 and see how those play. I haven't found many good RoboCop games yet. Just saying. RoboCop versus Terminator was interesting on a Genesis. Like, messed with that a little bit and played, and it's like I kind of got into it, but...
Serve the public trust. Protect the innocent. Uphold the law.
conversion by Peter Johnson, a dude. Use the joystick to control Robocop in the fight against crime. Joystick down and up to jump or depress spacebar. Okay, never mind. The future of law enforcement. I just keep getting cat here. Oh. Cram more references in. More references, I say. More samples, more references. Riots in Old Detroit. Film at 11. You remember that part where Robocop walks around downtown and punches the bejeebus out of everyone while walking around like an old timer? Hey, see? I'm gonna go protect the city, see? So, do I have a gun? There we go. Because I distinctly remember Robocop having a gun and shooting people. Huh. Is that a potato factory there? Nice. Whoa. Power up. That's not awful. Certainly seeing worse. I always... I have to make a theme on, like, just, Hey! Ah! Oh, he is just destroying me. Whew! Made the high score list. Was that it? Oh, it's like an instant fail game. We'll try one more time, but... Goodness. Well, not awful. I mean... It's Robocop. Is there a pause? What's going on? Some button got stuck there. Wow. I was gonna say earlier, it's like, you know, Robocop, or not Robocop games per se, but so many like action film, and they just made really just cheesy platformers. I mean, I guess what you could do back in the day, but some games were more intuitive, or not intuitive, more innovative. I'm trying to think of other games now since I'm just gonna make it up, but some at least tried to shirk the original formula a little bit, and not just like, yeah. Alright, let's check out Robocop 2, because it sounds like this is pretty much it, and you just game over every time. But that's where, again, this setup is really cool, because you just push the button and you're in a new game. Simple as that. What a great game, smile face. Well, that gets me hyped now. Special effects. The other one was appeared to have ported by one guy. Nice. See if there's an intro here. There we go. The production quality here seems a little better. It was a lot later too, right? So when did Robocop 1 come out? It was like 87, 88, something like that. Robocop 2 was like 90, I think, maybe? Who knows? I don't remember now. Someone can look it up, but... So then, of course, you know, later in the lifetime of the Amiga, of course, it probably was better. So... Cool music. Alright. Negotiate the river complex, collect the 10 nuke capsules, and destroy the drug lab. Rescue all the hostages for an extra life. Oh my goodness. Whoa, look at that. Digitized picture. Oh, there we go. Oh, here we're talking. Look at this. This looks like an arcade title. Oops, sorry, I was supposed to help that. Oh yeah, this totally looks like an arcade game. Even the gun sounds right. Oh, this is better. Animations are great. Oh, he sounds. Listen to he's walking. Thub, 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 thub. Yeah, this is cool. I mean, besides the fact there's like 500 million bad guys. Whoops, I'm supposed to protect the innocents. My bad. Whoa! Remember the time RoboCop rode a hoverboard in RoboCop 2? This is raining nuke! Oh. Controls are messed up. Probably because of whatever effect I'm under. Oh, so I see. You probably pick up one of those and it messes your controls up. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure if RoboCop 3 is good per se on here, but again, I think it uses like real 3D and everything, so that's probably pretty cool. Though we can't play it, but yeah, I think it has to do with that protection thing. There we go. Man Rescue. Yeah, I mean, this feels like a arcade title for sure. I could definitely see this being an arcade conversion. Oh, rapid fire. That's what that stands for. RF. This is a lot going on. Like most of these titles just go all out with like stuff on the screen and bad guys everywhere. Come on, RoboCop, you can do it. Jump, Murphy. Well. Whoa! It's be that I want to dodge these things because they keep messing up my movement. Boy, he's not taking any prisoners, though. Ow. Not bad. I mean, again, it's a little busy, because there's so much going on at the same time, but... Well, there's one game, actually, I just thought that I want to play, too. My friend played this a lot, and I will tell a story here. I'm trying to see if I can maybe see how far I can get. I can't jump on there. Can't shoot my way through there. Can I go here? No. I shoot through the wall, though. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Elevator action with RoboCop. Oh, this is really tricky. This does not lend itself to platforming, okay? RoboCop didn't jump that much. Oh, come on. Oh, he exploded and he did. Alright, that's really, actually, it's quite cool. I mean, I can see playing that. One I want to show is, let's see, under P or E, PGI. There we go. Persian Gulf Inferno. I won't play that long because it's a really long game, or it's not a long game per se. You actually complete the game in like an hour or something like that if you were to play it straight through. But you are trying to save an oil rig from certain annihilation. Terrorists have a bomb on here, so the year is 1990. Oh man, the future. I remember thinking the animations were... Look at that! Oh, so cool. So, with this game, you're supposed to hunt around the old platform until you find... Oh, it was so cool, because you could do this and then shoot. I just remember looking at... Oh, man, it's so cool. So my friend, for a while, when he was playing this, he had to play on a monochrome screen. An amber screen. And... you're supposed to find, like, the scientist who's supposed to tell you then, when you find the bomb, cut whatever wire. Oh my goodness. Take a lot of bullets. You're supposed to find the right wire to cut at the end, because at the very end, you basically are presented with 5 wires, and you have to cut one for the game to end. And the scientist that told him what to cut said, cut the yellow wire to win the game. Okay, we're playing on an amber monitor, right? So it's yellow. Very yellow, yellow, and dark yellow. So he gets to the end, and I'm watching him, and it says, you know, cut the yellow wire. So he gets there, and it's literally like yellow, medium yellow, light yellow, dark yellow. And which one do you pick? And if you pick the wrong one, like we did then, you picked like the third from the left or whatever, and it click, and then it shows the whole goal blowing up in a explosion because you picked the wrong wire. I just, yeah, don't play in this game on a monochrome monitor, apparently, is the moral of that story. Just remember the graphics and movement being really impressive. Oh. I'm out of ammo. Ah. Am I? Yep. Not a good thing. If you're joining us late at this point, I am playing Amiga on the Mr. FPGA device, which lets you very accurately emulate, in this case, an Amiga 500 or faster. And I'm doing terrible at this game. I remember being better at this game, but how do you go down the stairs? Come on. So with this, I'm playing on an actual controller versus a joystick that the actual Amiga would have played on, most likely. Unless you played on like a Sega Genesis controller or does it stand here? There we go. Nice little animation there. The idea being that it accurately emulates. You open the door. There we go. Space for explosive charge. Aha, you found a shotgun. Now we're talking. There we go. So animation running down the stairs. And you basically have a limited time. As you can see, it's ticking up, I think, at midnight, then the bomb detonates if you don't find it, right? So you have to really hurry. Find more explosive charges, and the room is empty. Nothing. It's pretty violent for a game. This game will probably not be released on any consoles, I'm guessing. I have no ammo for the shotgun? Oh well. There goes that. Whoops. So yeah, I remember playing that game, or at least watching my friend play it, but I'm certainly not good at it. There's plenty of... Let's go back to some of the... oh, never mind. There's one that I really, really enjoyed, that I liked playing every time I was visiting my friend. So I did not have an Amiga. My neighbor across the street, which is still my good friend when I was growing up, had an Amiga 500. So that's where I played a lot of these games. And one game I always wanted to play, because I was young, it was PB Hammer. A very platform happy game, I guess, and I really enjoyed it. Now we're leaning more into the just standard platforming type games on this. I don't know my password. This is a normal way to switch floppies. So this game, the idea is that PP Hammer, with his pneumatic weapon, can dig through stuff. And I can't tell. It's hard to say if this game is, because it's running with that 20 megahertz equivalent, if it's actually running a little faster or not, but I'd have to do a direct comparison. I do plan on rebuilding the, let's see, F1. Making a second hard drive for this, that I install Amiga OS and everything on manually. I just remember the little animations and everything. This one being so cool when I was a kid. It looks really good, it's colorful, it's very kid-friendly. Except, when you stand too long, I believe he pulls out a cigarette because he's waiting. Yeah, there you go. This is a game that is greatly enhanced by using a rebinding for the jump button. Otherwise I'd be pushing up like crazy. So, whee! You get little potions that let you, in this case, jump higher. Trying to avoid these guys. I think it's... I feel better now. Okay, F4 is invisible. I'm unhurtable by these guys here now. The objective is to collect all the treasures in each level before you're allowed to proceed. It's kind of your classic style platformer, but it's only gimmick with the pneumatic hammer. It's hard to describe too when you're playing it like this, again because of the way the Mister works and how it treats input latency. It just feels very tight to play. It's fast. There's no like lag, or like sometimes when you're playing on RetroPie, for example, which I do like a lot. You're playing and it's just like, I feel like I should have made that jump. It's hard to describe that, but it just feels better playing on this. And there's certain controllers that provide that lower latency versus others, so not all of them are created equal. Someone actually created a fantastic spreadsheet that contains all that information. Someone that actually, you know, they did the math. They actually lag tested a ton of controllers. Again, that's what's so cool. It feels like the beginning of the MAME days almost. It's like every time, whoa, there's, you know, something new coming out that just changes this platform for the better. Like I mentioned earlier, with the 486 core for this, like yes, you can run an entire DOS machine on here. It actually came out with a massive speed improvement. Like they figured out caching, and that made a huge difference. So there we go, there's a bonus level. Seconds. Ooh! I made it with 0 seconds remaining. And as a kid, I just obviously love that Lego style level there. Wish I should have jumped over. I think there was a portal there. But there's a lot of these kind of games on here. PP Hammer comes to mind just because it's so polished, I guess. Not all of these are that polished. And it just plays really, really well. I think it's hard. I remember as a kid, I certainly wouldn't make it very far. Climb to hear the Rolling Stones. Oil. Ah. Whoops, and I got squished. Older games like this weren't always, you know, forgiving either, so... And because of the joystick, that's probably the biggest thing that's against the Amiga is the control schemes. I know you can use gamepads, and of course I am hid in this case, but that can be a little sloppy because of the up thing. It was designed to use a joystick, which is a little more deliberate in your up and down movements than a gamepad, I feel. So, but it also means you're moving around a lot to make that movement happen. Boy, the stage is a lot bigger. Oh. It's a long fall. Let's see. There's one more. So, how do you get over there? I got too much work. I was taking the lazy way out. So let's check maybe a game that probably everyone knows. Paperboy. That's the NES, right? So here's where the trainer stuff comes in. You can switch into, you know, having additional things in the game that the group that cracked the game probably did. And yes, it is cut off on my screen. Well, here. Daily Sun. We'll do Easy Street. And for the record, I am awful at Paperboy. I just hate it, so... Smack. Oh my goodness. Yeah, as I said, I'm awful. Boy, this kid is just dead so many times over now. There's a jackhammer guy. Why is he just running out? Try one more time, but yeah, I don't even like Paperboy. I don't know why I'm even playing this, but I just saw it and I had to give it another whirl. Starting to tell the graphics are better than on NES, which, I mean, that's probably where most of us play. At least what I did, play Paperboy originally. Bless it. This is supposed to be Easy Street. I think I delivered some of it? Maybe? I remember being fascinated by the perspective in this game. It looks really cool. But then it's hard to kind of get your head around it, I think. Ah! Get away from you, stupid kids. I remember, I think everyone has played Paperboy has sat there cussing up like, what? Why are they even doing that? That makes no sense. I'm focusing now. Time up. Oh, that's right. You have to carry your... Oh, yeah, forget about this. Anyway, Paperboy. Not doing that again, so... Let's go back to the best of lists, which are really nice. And of course, then you have, themed lists. So in this case here, cyberpunk games. There's just so many. Dreamweb I've heard really good things about. I'm hoping to check that out sometime. I think it's a little deep to get into tonight. But there's just so many games. So we'll go back to the best of list here, and let's look at the Injustice Top 100. Sensible World Soccer, I've heard many good things about. Speedball, there are a lot of games on Amiga that have like a combination of management and play. In this case here, you're managing a brutal speedball team in the future, basically, and the ball they play with is like a literal steel ball. So we have a lot of slower games like Settlers, Civilization, a lot of soccer management games. I definitely remember that. Lost Patrol, my friend who had the Amiga across the street, he played that a ton, and you are a patrol in Vietnam that gets dropped behind enemy lines, crash a helicopter or something, you gotta make it back. Also very kind of a deep simulation game. Bill's Tomato Game. I'll fire up Chaos Engine. That's a very solid game. I didn't play it much because it came out pretty late in the Amiga lifespan, if I remember right. And most of my friends at that point had moved on to PC. Or at least, certainly didn't see it until later. It feels like it was late in the generation. So. Created a bizarre machine. The Chaos Engine. Got it. Oh, one I just thought of after here that I didn't play much, but just from the music perspective, I want to fire up as well, so. One player. Third new game. Trying to start an F train there, Chris. Let's see. Oh, that guy just looks too good to... Got it. There we go. Oh, y'all got to play? Terrific. At least this is virtual, so... You can basically run around like this and collect stuff, and very high production quality or values. This is again Bitmap Brothers. To me, it looks very similar to the engine that underpins the Speedball games. Very fast-paced, but you run around like this and collecting weapon or collecting cash and stuff, so you can buy more weapons later. And there are quite a few games like this. One that does definitely come to mind is Dogs of War. My buddy and I played that a ton, and there's a cheat for it that gives you basically unlimited lives. It's near impossible to play without the cheat, because you just get totally slammed. It plays like Ikari Warriors, maybe, or the closest one I can think of. There's just so many good games on Amiga. It's just crazy. There are a lot of good games. Maybe not a ton that you would just sit for hours and hours and play. I mean, there certainly are. I shouldn't say that. But personally, I think a lot of the games end up just for like bite-sized things, because there's a ton of like deep games. Like we're playing Frontier Elite for hours and hours and hours. That is a huge range, but I feel like a lot of these type of games, I certainly wouldn't play for that long. Yeah, it does look like Smash TV. It's definitely a similar style to it. Yeah, it was pretty late. I remember reading in magazines like, oh, wow, here comes Chaos Engine. Kind of like this. It's a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen style to it. But it looks really good, and Again, it plays like a kind of a Genesis game. I'm not sure this was released on any consoles or not. I'll probably have to call here sooner or later, but yeah, goodness, I just get on a nostalgia kick. I can just keep playing these games forever is a problem. Which is the challenge, and some people argue about that too. When you have every game available, it gets harder and harder to pick a game to play. Which I don't necessarily disagree with, but you can't argue with the utility of having, in this case here, near real cycle accurate representation of the actual hardware. So I'll do the same spiel again, but if you're joining late here, we are playing on the Mr. FPGA device, which provides, through FPGA emulation, very accurate gameplay from the real console or system you're emulating. So it's a special device. There's 2 players. I mean, that would be a lot of fun. And that's honestly what I miss a lot. Was just, you know, me and my buddy would, you'd get snacks and soda and stuff, and then you bench down, and you get a little further every time you play one of these games. And especially on the Amiga, you had access to almost every game back then too. As I said earlier, copying was just rampant on this system. People were just pirating left and right. That's like how you got games. It's just the first time my friend, who was a big Flight Sim fan, he bought boom, dead. Memphis Belle, the B-17 bomber, and he was just like, wow, it comes in a box? I mean, I thought that's how all games came on handwritten floppy, so. You could turn off the stream if you want, it was noisy. Yeah, you're right there, Sea Circus. My Steam backlog is actually hilarious, and I actually don't even look at it anymore. I think if you put it in the backloggery, it's like I can play until I'm old and grayer. But then especially you go into these older games. So let's see. Oh, look, a Harley Davidson simulator. I remember this. I don't remember the name, but it's funny because my friend, I remember this now because you're trying to get to Sturgis. Funny, topical. And you can buy upgrades to your bike and everything for each race you do. So, but one I wanted to check out, which I'm assuming runs on this here, is, so you have a lot of simulator games too. Really cool. Which one I'm thinking of now? That's right. There we go. This is brutal on a stock Amiga because there is like 7 floppies and you're switching bonanza. But now it's doing it all for you. Look at that. Extra chip, enhanced sound. Turn up a little bit there because I listen to the soundtrack sometimes on its own. It's so good. Interestingly enough, right now, I'm assuming it's using some weird resolution because the CRT actually went black. I can't display it. So I have to watch it on the flat panel. That's a little funny. It's kind of like a dungeon crawling game, and it uses advanced graphics. That's probably why. I'm guessing the CRT just doesn't like it. But it was a very late game. It used very advanced graphics for the time, and it's kind of like a dungeon crawler. There's so many. Yeah, Psygnosis made Wipeout, and they were very busy on the Amiga platform. Such good music. And you have 4 players, kind of like a dungeon crawler. And you pick your guys and everything. And this, as you see, look at how many floppies are switching around here. You gotta pick your guys. Oh yeah, it's running at high resolution. I'm not sure if you can see it in the stream, but it's kind of like a bit of a shimmering going on there. It's running in interlace mode, so it's probably higher than the CRT likes. Pick our robot. yeah, as what I would call like British club music, because that certainly is lines up to me with you know, the Amiga. It was huge in England, so I'm not gonna play it as much because I just wanted to see it. It's been so long. There we go. I see it loading up there, so we'll see. It might just be the menu was running in high-res mode. I think it just detected that AGA, which is the Advanced Graphics Array chipset. I don't know if it's loading or it froze or what. No. Now it just disappeared again. There we go. Now it's displaying. So you basically control 4 guys here. Have a gun. There we go. I guess close your eyes because it looks like we're shooting puppies. This runs much, much worse on a stock Amiga. Let me just say that. Whoops. Where did that guy go? We got the big robot here with the minigun. Oh, ran out of ammo. Yeah, cool game, but yeah. Yeah, Wipeout was certainly very British to me, so there were a lot of other companies that certainly were Swedish. Like I mentioned earlier, the Digital Illusions that made all the games for Pinball Illusions, Pinball Fantasies, all that stuff. Yeah, there were so many games on Amiga. It's just near insanity. Try a little more lighthearted one. A lot of games from the PC around this era were ported as well, or vice versa. They were ported to PC after being on Amiga. Bad Dudes versus Dragon Ninja. I mean, it's a huge library. So you almost get overwhelmed. So yeah, there were like, I don't know how many hundreds of games, or not hundreds, but they made a ton of games for the Amiga. That was their primary, that's where they, I think, kind of made most of their money in the beginning, so. Huh. We're thinking the style on this is really cool. Apparently you can't touch them at all. Ow, you literally shot me. Can I do nothing? Oh. Well, he's killed. I don't remember the movie going like that, but... Just terrific pixel art as well. Goodness. Oh, there we go. Huh. Wow, hard game. And back to the beginning. I said it before, just, you bought a game, right? And that was the game you had. Imagine buying the box copy of something like this, and then that was what you had, right? You had to play it. I feel like you have a harder time finding a game that's that... I mean, games have gotten just generally better on what people want to. You don't have... Hard games are hard on purpose, and are advertised as such, so... So... The thing with the FPGA, and I gave a spiel earlier about it, is that it literally is hardware emulation. So it actually is running on an FPGA development board. And you can look up the FPGA Mister to get an idea. And what that does is it uses an FPGA chip that the company Analog, for example, uses to do their Mega SG and Mega N, or Super NT. And what it allows them to do is run a near cycle accurate representation of the actual hardware, as it was. And that lets you have much more accurate representation and actually play the games in a more accurate way. So this is running an entire Amiga. As far as the software is concerned, this is running on an Amiga. A fast Amiga, but an Amiga nonetheless. Whoops. Good grief. So, if I do this now, if I exit out of this game, and I do escape, then this is Workbench running on Amiga OS. No, this is running on my CRT right now. I'm waiting for another cable. So, with the thing with the Mister, and I can show a little camera, get ready for shaky cam. This is the Mister device. Which basically, the Mister itself is the board under here, which is a DE10 Nano development board. And it's used really for engineering students to learn how to program these FPGA circuits. And the thing with the FPGA is that if you write the right programming language for it, or HDL, hardware description language, then it can emulate or mimic just about any circuit within the realm of how many logic circuits are on here, which is like 10,000. So you can play SNES, Genesis, NES, Amiga, Atari ST, Sega CD, TurboGrafx 16, all that stuff near cycle accurate, so it plays like the real hardware. And because it's actually doing the real hardware stuff, there's almost no lag. And the benefit you get with this board, which is the I/O board, which uses then an I/O pin on it to produce a output for VGA, not only am I capturing HDMI with this, but I actually have native RGB out. So in this case here, I am playing on a CRT monitor, which is native then displayed, plus then I'm capturing over here. But that allows me to capture and play at the same time. And that's the real benefit of this. And I can just show you, so I'll probably just finish out here, but I can just show real quick a couple out of course, just so you can see. So in this case here, these are out of course, which is what reprograms the FPGA or Mister to, yes, there's a 486, so you can play DOS games on it. That allows you to switch to another console, basically. So if we want to play Genesis, all I have to do is hit the button, load up a game, and now I'm playing on what Sonic ROM sees is a cycle accurate Genesis, like an actual Genesis, and I can reconfigure the core to use different sound chips, things like that. But this is from the ROM's perspective, playing on real hardware. So it ends up being, there's literally no lag pushing this button versus then a Pi, which I mentioned before too. I don't want to throw any shade on the Pi because it is an amazing emulation platform. But emulating the hardware in this way is more accurate. And that lets you have a lot of games that perform like they did on the console. Of course, I'm just getting into playing the game here, but it's just an idea between all the different cores and everything, and it has Neo Geo, which is a big deal because that is a very complicated machine. Trying to think of one. So here's Art of Fighting. Let's see. I don't have enough memory on this maybe to run this, but we'll see. because it requires more memory than I have on this board. So this being basically, again, a true representation, and I think I have like a scanline filter on, so it probably doesn't look great there now, but let's see if I can disable that. So you can actually apply different scan lines and stuff. That doesn't look great on capturing, so we're gonna go with, I think, Gaussian Sharp 5. There we go. Yes. So the thing with the FPGA is not a normal processor in that same way. So RetroPie, or the Raspberry Pi, uses an ARM processor, right? And that's only so powerful on what it emulates. It's doing its software. What this does is then with the FPGA, it reprograms the chip to mimic the actual hardware. So that's the limitation, is how many logic circuits are on there. And it does it, as I understand, in parallel versus a normal CPU. It does instructions really, really fast, and that's how it handles it. In this case here, it's doing it in parallel, so it accesses the actual original circuitry. So in this case here, I get a... Basically, now, of course, that's totally up to how accurate the programmer who made this core was. But once programmed correctly, it will basically be indistinguishable from real hardware. That's the idea. Will that ever be 100% true? That I don't know, but it's close enough that... like, for example, I used this before, too. If you play Super Metroid on emulation, like SNES, and you speedrun the game, it's like a minute faster because it's not cycle accurate to the Super Nintendo. Versus playing on this, it is. So you would get the same time. If you play a Super Nintendo versus the SNES core, it would be basically identical. That's the ideal, and that's what they're going for. And it sounds like they're getting there. So yeah, that's the Neo Geo, which is really impressive. But then, of course, you can go into the more classic one, being Super Nintendo. And I haven't even set up all of these yet. Of course, the focus was Amiga tonight, but it just plays these things so flippin' well. And it's hard to describe how good it controls. Wired, you want it wired if you can. With the USB and the polling on here, it's like less than 1 frame of lag on the controller, if not less. And of course, it looks really, really good. Because it's got a built-in scaler on the HDMI port, so you basically... Let's skip to a lot of flashing stuff here. Because it acts like an OSSC, or an open scaling converter, on the VGA port. So I can change scaling options on the fly, right? Like you just saw. And then I can also go in and do additional scaling here. I can blend it out if I want to. Of course, I don't want to do that. But it does all this on the hardware layer, which is why then the software becomes even more accurate. So it's a different type of emulation. It's still technically emulation, I would still call it that. But I think also that eventually this will be the way forward for retaining and reproducing classic consoles, for sure. The limitation is how many logic circuits are on...
Big Apple.
Sort of. MAME as itself is not a core. What are cores are the actual arcade PCBs. So they have released specific, like Goals and Ghosts is on here. I don't think I have it configured yet, so I'm not going to say that it works. But they have to basically code each board, and what they do is they actually grind down the chips on the board. At least one developer is. And so this game I can play on autopilot. It's like one of my favorite SNES games. That they grind down the boards using a microscope, and they actually look at circuits to see how they're traced out, and then they reprogram those in HDL, which is the hardware description language, and that's how they get that accuracy. They're literally tracing out the actual hardware. So MAME as itself is not a core. Each individual arcade board is. So you have one for Goals and Ghosts, you have one for like Arkanoid, the original one. You gotta remember too that this is probably not gonna... The most powerful this will ever do is PS1, probably. Neo Geo, I think, was a huge surprise for everyone. Sega CD was a big one too. It will never do 32X. It can't do both, because you're using up all the cores already to produce the Genesis, or not the cores, but all the logic circuits on the board to then emulate the Genesis. So at that point, you don't have anything left over for 32X. So that's the limitation there. Now, with newer boards eventually, yes, you'll have more logic circuits, but also that increases complexity. Like, yeah, sure, you might have a board, and there are ones out today, that, for example, cell phone manufacturers use them to design their new phones. They don't, like, burn like 50,000 different revisions of the same chip. They use an FPGA to develop it, because then they can reprogram it to suit their needs. But those development boards are like tens of thousands of dollars, clearly not applicable to home users. This board is intended to be a engineering student, like, you know, college level thing, and Intel actually has a discount on them from the manufacturer, so it only is about 150 shipped, which, you know, it sounds a lot compared to like a RetroPie, but it does a lot, and it does it in a very different way too. As you can see, it just plays, or at least for me, it feels like I'm playing on a Super Nintendo. So that's where the strength of it is. It's a different type of emulation, and they suit different needs. Just want to play some retro games or have a good time. The RetroPie is a fantastic solution, and it's of course the cheapest one, really, to do a standalone, or just play it on the computer on emulator. But this is something new entirely, and I think for sure the fact that this development is happening with the HDL being written for each of these cores, they can port that to newer designs or models. And it's interesting because you mentioned the PS Classic, and I reloaded the PS Classic with Auto Bleem. That works great, but then playing Parappa Rapper on it, latency is pretty, and the lag is pretty severe. Like, the timing is just hard to dial in when and if PS1 comes out. And apparently PS1 is coming out for this. It will be pulse cycle accurate is the idea, and you will play it like you're playing on a real PS1. I think that's as far as this device can go, because at that point you're using up all the logic circuits available. And the one thing you have to remember too is that if they're tracing this out, so tracing out NES, they probably were able to get that pretty accurate. It's not that complicated in the scheme of things. Of course, I'm talking like a layman, because I'm sure it is in fact very complicated. I'm not going to belittle their effort. However, it's not a super complicated console by comparison. And N64, for example, has like custom GPUs, and so not only do you have to do the actual CPU and all that stuff, the challenge is that all those circuits on the board have to be replicated. There are ways around it. For the 486 core, for example, that is not reproducing a cycle-accurate, 486. They just don't have enough space on it. So I think they're taking some shortcuts on there, but it is able to run DOS games completely normally. So I switched to that now, but it has a little problem with the current scaling I have set up, so I have to mess with it for capturing. But idea being that this preserves, with the HDL inventoried and written properly, you can then duplicate chips in FPGA platforms. It can be ported easily, relatively easily, or you can manufacture new chips. But what you'll probably see is FPGA chips replacing the failing hardware. So that's pretty much a savior of, I think, old dying hardware. For the Neo Geo, for example, you will not be able to reproduce those chips anymore because they're not made, and they use this apparently ton of custom chips. So the only way to repair a broken Neo Geo, as I understand, is to harvest a working one, which of course is not what you want to do. Let's check out another game because one that I know is dear to everyone, which actually allows you to... This actually has a function on here to overclock the SuperFX chips to use in the turbo mode. So we will set the speed to turbo. You kind of see the difference. Look at the particles. Faster, slower. Faster, slower. And what this does is not just boosting the speed, it's actually overclocking the actual emulation of the SuperFX chips. It's not just like overclock, turn up the speed. It's doing it cycle accurate still. So that's why they can't just like, okay, we're going to crank it up to 11 and make it run super fast. That would break it, so. Yeah, that's the thing with the Classic. when it was on sale, it's a screaming deal, because the fact you can emulate so many things on it makes it just a fantastic when we're using it as well, because you put auto bleem on there, keep memory stick, slap a whole bunch of voices on it, you're done. It's so simple and surprisingly powerful, which again, I think software emulation has its place. Let's do this and check the slow, fast, slow, fast. So there's a dramatic difference here. Again, with trying to be as cycle accurate as possible, trying to retain that feel and everything too. It just plays so good. It's hard to describe it how responsive this is. And it just plays straight up good. But in this case here, it's not either boosted to the point where it's like unplayable either, so. And it allows you to get really clean audio and video signals out as well. Like you can see on the capture here, this is HDMI, which if you try and use an actual console, you pretty much have to use an OSSC or OpenScan converter or a FrameMeister, which is several $100s in hardware too. Versus this runs almost like the real hardware. I mean, it runs like the real hardware as far as this is concerned. It just runs so good. I can't describe it any other way. I noticed when I was playing on Super Castlevania earlier, and just like, it's just so tight. It feels like I remember it if I, especially playing on a SNES-style controller, you forget you're playing on an emulator, which of course you do on a lot of time on RetroPie or something like that too, but boy, this game is so good. And again, it's going to run CD ones. I have, for example, Rondo Blood, which is the at the end or the beginning of Symphony of the Night when Rector Belmont comes there. That's from that game, so that's one that wasn't released in the West, but they have a fan translation of it, so you can run that stuff too. So I haven't set up the arcade ones yet. I doubt this is working because I haven't installed a ROM yet. So yeah. Yeah, I have to. So this emulates the actual arcade, so you can set dip switches like you would on the real arcade. But sadly, I have not installed all the arcade boards yet, so I'm going to do that. And you basically just put the main ROM in the right directory, and you're good to go. Let's see, it's here that I want. So here are some of the arcade games. So far, they're focusing on the old ones, of course, because I did a lot of work to do this cycle accurate. Most recently, I think they added CPS, which is the Capcom general board that adds like goals and goals and stuff like that. Yeah, Sega CD is basically emulated flawlessly, so. Which RetroPie can do. But again, that's not how well they code it, right? RetroArch handles CSCD just fine. But in this case here, again, it is cycle accurate, so not only is it emulating in the Genesis underneath it, but then also the Sega CD itself, too. But again, runs basically flawlessly. And for me, it's really attractive to have the dual output without any loss of quality or impact. The VGA out coupled with the HDMI out is, like, it just, there's no loss of quality or anything, so. See what scaler I have on here. Awesome sharp. And we can add scan lines. It just doesn't translate that great on streaming, unfortunately, because of compression on YouTube. On a flat panel with the scaler on, to have the scan lines, it looks really, really good. And I'm going to show one more thing after this. But yeah, Sega CD, no problem at all. It runs just like a real Sega CD, and it looks right now. I know it looks really good on the stream, fortunately, which is really nice. It looks really good on a CRT, which is the benefit of this, that if you plug this in with the that hat into a normal tube TV, you're basically getting the same experience, which is where this whole thing shines. But it has the same slowdowns as the real console, you know. So I'm going to show one thing which I think is really cool. And that's Game Boy emulation, because you can add a little scaler that's a pixel filter like that, like the original one was. So then if we load a ROM now, and go to like Super Mario Land here, example. It looks like you're playing on a actual console, and that's because we've added a filter that has a blur effect on the LCD. So then when you play it, it looks like you're playing on a real Game Boy. And I'm terrible at it, but so it's just another trick that it's doing. And the big kicker with that, and I'm not going to go too deep into technical because I don't fully understand myself, but the idea being is that it's adding the scan lines that you're seeing now in between the pixels is added with an integer scale, meaning it's equal distance. So it's not just slapping a filter on top of it like most emulators would do. It's actually inserting it in between the pixels, so you get even scaling, which does make a difference. It makes it look a lot cleaner. So looking at the LCD panel, and sure enough, it looks like you're playing it. And if I disable that, you'll really see the difference. So that's what it looks like normal, right? This is blocky scaling, but then you do this, and you get that LCD effect. And you can do LCD effects without the blur. But the blur, I don't know, it just adds a nice... It's bright, so... That makes it feel like you're playing on a real Game Boy. I feel it's a viable way. Now, interestingly enough, because of the CRT, it actually squished because it's outputting the actual, technical, the real analog signal that a Game Boy would output. Of course, it can't, but... But I feel it's a viable way to play Game Boy this way, for sure. Oh my goodness, I play this game... I beat this game on the Game Boy. Sitting by a window, trying to get some sunlight. Gotta take the upper door. Yep. Thanks. Have a good night, that's the thing. This was basically my own birthday present from the wife, so... But yeah, I'm probably gonna call it there on the Game Boy game. It's getting pretty late. I'll pause that, but there's so many options to this thing, and for me, from a stream perspective, it's fantastic. So I would do mostly Amiga games. I just got carried away. This is the first time I actually stream with this thing, and it just works so well. It's a pleasure to use and play on. I feel a lot of time with the RetroPie, you're kind of doing some stuff to kind of get around issues, but this just works. Huge community of developers that are working on this thing with new cores coming up, well, it seems like daily, and new features. So it's just awesome, so... but yeah, I'm probably going to call it there too. I didn't realize how late it gotten, because I just got going, like usual. But hopefully you enjoyed seeing a little bit of what Mr. can do. I will certainly be streaming a lot more of it, because it is so practical to use compared to real hardware. And considering it is so close to real hardware too, it is, I mean, as close as you can get without actually using real hardware, so... but yeah, I'm going to call it there, so I appreciate you guys hanging out with me tonight. It was a long one tonight, I just kept going. And then, if nothing else, I will definitely stream next Thursday again. I'm going to try every Thursday at least. I might stream more depending on if I feel like it, but in general, it's going to be every Thursday. So, if you're to join me in a week, I really appreciate you stopping by and chatting with me and listening to me rambling on as usual. So, until next time, I will see you. Have a good night.